Whoopi Goldberg, who, by the way, I hope is still a friend, we can disagree with each other, should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
Not every single thing has to be for everybody.
Right.
We can have platforms that have stuff on them that not everyone on that platform or who consumes stuff on that platform enjoys. And The View is a particularly weird place to do it.
Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
The reported tension between Maher and Whoopi Goldberg has now turned into a full-blown fallout, with Maher strongly hinting that he's done working with Goldberg for good. While the two were never the closest of friends, they maintained a fragile understanding until disagreements over past vaccine discussions caused major friction. Though they appeared to make peace at one point, Maher's latest comments suggest the relationship is beyond repair. The divide is clear, the shade unmistakable, and the drama has fans talking nonstop.
What is the panel's reaction to Arnold Schwarzenegger saying that immigrants should behave like guests? Well, they're truncating that a little, but that is basically what he said. And he is, of course, an immigrant himself. He came here with nothing but a loincloth and a jar of protein powder, and look how far he got. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it.
I completely agree.
The reported fallout between Bill Maher and Whoopi Goldberg recently escalated after Maher appeared on The View alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger. During the discussion, Schwarzenegger remarked that immigrants should respect the customs of the United States since they are guests in the country. While some viewers found the comment straightforward, Goldberg viewed it as patronizing and dismissive toward immigrant communities, sparking a sharp exchange between her and Schwarzenegger. The tension was clear on set, but what truly fueled the drama was Maher's decision to back Schwarzenegger's perspective, describing it as a reasonable point of view. Goldberg, however, saw that as Maher aligning himself with language she felt was insensitive, which only deepened the rift between them. Their relationship had already been fragile from past disagreements, and this incident pushed things further toward a breaking point, highlighting just how far apart the two now stand on issues of sensitivity and respect.
And I think whenever you have a candidate like Kamala Harris that clearly was not the choice of the Democrat Party, when she got shoehorned into that space, and then you tried to roll out Megan Thee Stallion and Lil Jon, the East Side Boys, and everybody was trying to say, hey, black men, let's vote for this now. It just really didn't work.
Well, most of them still did.
Well, one in three black men in the state of Texas voted for President Trump.
Okay, well, that's youth men and in the state.
Well, I'm being very specific here because it does matter. We are seeing a seismic shift, and that's the most vote, the highest vote that we got in the Republican Party in the history.
No doubt about it. Trump did better with minorities across the board each time he ran.
Whoopi Goldberg has stirred conversation by suggesting that Donald Trump's stance on immigration reveals a lack of genuine concern for immigrant communities, pointing to his strict emphasis on rules and order at the border. Her criticism came while recalling Arnold Schwarzenegger's recent remarks, where he noted that immigrants should view themselves as guests and behave accordingly, a statement Bill Maher publicly supported. To Goldberg, this type of framing sounded dismissive and overly harsh, leading her to call out both Schwarzenegger and Maher. The disagreement reignited debates around border policy, with many pointing to the challenges of past administrations in handling immigration surges. While some see stricter enforcement as necessary for stability and security, others argue it unfairly stereotypes immigrants as problematic. Maher's agreement with Schwarzenegger underscored how divided public figures remain on the subject, and why this clash with Goldberg has pushed their already shaky relationship further into the spotlight.
Sure, every single member of the Saturday Night Live cast was a Harris supporter. But what if one of them wasn't? What if one of those cast members was for Trump? Would they have felt comfortable saying so? I really don't think so. They would have had to keep it to themselves. That's not a good place for us to be. And I remember when Elon Musk hosted, and this is well before he was a Trumper. This is 3 or 4 years. He was just the richest man in the world. And a number of the cast members on Saturday Night Live, they didn't want to deal with him. And I was thinking, really? You have Elon Musk on your show for a week. You could talk even about this issue that bothers you so much, that he's so rich and lots of people aren't. But no, you don't want to even deal with him. That's what I hate about the left.
Bill Maher's stance highlights a broader tension in today's political climate, especially when it comes to differing opinions. When Arnold Schwarzenegger shared his perspective on immigrant responsibility and Maher agreed, Whoopi Goldberg strongly disagreed, framing their remarks as dismissive. What followed reflects a larger issue: how quickly disagreements can escalate into personal conflicts rather than genuine debate. Critics often argue that some spaces, particularly in mainstream political and cultural discussions, seem less open to viewpoints that challenge the dominant narrative. Instead of fostering constructive dialogue, disagreements sometimes turn into accusations or dismissals, which can discourage diverse perspectives from being voiced at all. Maher's insistence on standing by his viewpoint illustrates the importance of protecting open conversation, even when opinions differ. Without room for thoughtful exchange, the result can feel like an echo chamber where only one perspective is acceptable, and that outcome undermines the very idea of inclusive dialogue.
Harris would be the first woman president, first black woman president, and first Asian president. But I don't vote for who will be the first. I vote for who will win. And for whatever reason, Harris has never been popular. You can count the number of delegates she won in the 2020 primaries on one hand, as long as that hand has no finger. Sometimes life isn't fair. It's not fair that she's not popular. She's intelligent and accomplished, and in fact was put in charge of the border. And look at how... Okay, bad example.
Bill Maher didn't shy away from voicing his criticism of Whoopi Goldberg, making it clear that her views on immigration clash directly with his own. In his remarks, Maher pointed to Kamala Harris's past approach to border policy, suggesting that her softer stance would have created serious challenges for the country if she were in charge. He argued that a lack of firm enforcement could undermine national security and worsen instability. What seemed to frustrate him most, however, was Goldberg's continued defense of movements critical of ICE and border enforcement. To Maher, this signaled a troubling disregard for the safety concerns raised by many communities. The exchange wasn't just a casual debate. It was Maher drawing a firm line, accusing Goldberg of overlooking real-world consequences in favor of political loyalty. Their clash reflected deeper divides over immigration and how America should balance compassion with responsibility.
Who, by the way, I hope is still a friend. We can disagree with each other. Should not be canceled or put off her show, as much as I totally disagree with her crazy statement. Free speech. She should be there. She shouldn't get a timeout.
Not every single thing has to be for everybody.
Right.
We can have platforms that have stuff on them that not everyone on that platform or who consumes stuff on that platform enjoys. And The View is a particularly weird place to do it.
Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America. There is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
Even amid their heated feud, Bill Maher manages to take a more measured approach than many might expect. While he strongly disagrees with Whoopi Goldberg and often pokes fun at the arguments she makes, Maher emphasizes that she still deserves the space to voice her opinions, regardless of how much he finds them misguided. For him, debate and open dialogue should never be shut down just because perspectives clash. What stands out is the sharp contrast between his approach and Goldberg's. Over the years, she has often leaned into what critics call the cancel culture playbook, quick to call out, shame, or push aside those whose views don't match her own. Maher, on the other hand, frames himself as a defender of free expression, even for people he opposes. This difference highlights a much deeper divide. Maher sees disagreement as essential to progress, while Goldberg is often viewed as more selective in what she'll tolerate.
it's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
The critique is clear. The View has shifted far from being a serious space for balanced discussion and now often feels like an echo chamber. Instead of offering diverse perspectives or well-researched analysis, the program frequently comes across as a stage for repetitive talking points delivered with certainty, even when the arguments struggle under basic scrutiny. A recurring theme is its near-constant focus on Donald Trump, with his name surfacing in countless segments, almost as though the conversation depends on him to stay relevant. While the show is packaged as sharp political commentary, the tone often leans more toward performance, with strong emotional reactions taking the place of substantive dialogue. For critics, this has made The View less about fostering genuine debate and more about reinforcing familiar narratives to an already sympathetic audience, leaving little room for open, nuanced discussion.
Sometimes have a very different opinion. And the answer is not to make them sit in a corner for 2 weeks. That is insulting. It's so insulting to make a 65-year-old, the person at ABC News said, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments. Reflect. How insulting for someone of her age, who's a sophisticated person.
The whole point of free speech is we don't need free speech when we're right, when everyone agrees with us. We need free speech when we're wrong. We need free speech to make mistakes. We need free speech to say really unpopular things. And one of the reasons I'm always proud to come on this show, and I suspect you feel the same way, Catherine, is this is the only space left on television where people can speak freely and not be terrified.
The atmosphere on The View has become increasingly hostile to genuine debate, with many observers noting that anyone who steps outside the show's prevailing narrative is often met with sharp interruptions, ridicule, or outright dismissal. What should be an open forum for diverse voices instead feels like a cycle where dissenting opinions are quickly drowned out. Even panelists like Alyssa Farah Griffin, brought on to represent a more conservative perspective, often seem sidelined as their arguments are brushed aside rather than seriously engaged. Critics argue this one-sidedness has eroded the credibility of the show, with some even calling for its cancellation. But Bill Maher takes a different approach. He insists that, however heated or uncomfortable, all viewpoints deserve to be heard. To him, silencing unpopular opinions is far more damaging than simply disagreeing with them. Maher's stance highlights a crucial distinction. Real dialogue requires tolerance of differing voices, even when those voices challenge the audience's assumptions.
Because of racism and misogyny. They voted for him because they felt like, I think the biggest common denominator in this election is people want a good life and ability to provide for their family.
Well,
whether we agree or not with Donald Trump's plans,
Black people
they thought that he was reflective.
One of the poorest demographics in this country, but they voted for Kamala Harris.
But there was a split, and more of them voted for Donald Trump than had historically. I think that there's such a desire. If you really think the vast majority of this country voted because of racism and misogyny, you're missing it. Most of my family, a lot of my family doesn't have college degrees.
But the stats are the stats.
But that's not, it doesn't say I'm white, I voted for Donald Trump because of racism. That's not, let me just ask, what stat are you talking about?
Let me just dissect the
Yes, you can. There's a lot
hold on. Calm down.
The dynamic on The View has become predictable, especially when Alyssa Farah Griffin tries to share her perspective. Each time she speaks, it's met with eye rolls, dismissive tones, or the kind of sharp glances that make it obvious her views don't get the same weight as the rest of the table. Sunny Hostin, in particular, has mastered the condescending glare, sending the signal that Alyssa's words aren't worth serious consideration. But beneath the surface of these exchanges lies a bigger political shift happening across the country. While it's true that Black voters have historically backed Democrats and supported Kamala Harris in previous elections, recent data suggests the landscape is changing. Donald Trump has made notable gains within Black communities, cutting into a base once viewed as safely Democratic, and that change has fueled his momentum while expanding his coalition. Yet the women at the table largely brush this off, preferring smug dismissals instead of acknowledging the possibility that a realignment is taking shape, one that could reshape the outcome of future elections. This is where the Bill Maher-Whoopi Goldberg feud ties in, because their clash isn't just about two high-profile personalities trading barbs. It's symbolic of a larger cultural battle about free speech, political divides, and the space for open debate in America. Bill Maher, for his part, continues to present himself as someone who defends dialogue, even when he finds opposing arguments deeply flawed or ridiculous. Whoopi, on the other hand, often leans on shutting down voices that don't fit her worldview, using the same cancel-style tactics that Maher frequently criticizes. Add in The View's trademark smugness, its constant fixation on Donald Trump, and its hostility toward dissent, and it's no surprise sparks are still flying. One thing's certain, this feud is far from finished.